Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today, September 2nd on the road. So apologies, we're not in our normal setup. Shout out though to B-Ron and Sniper J for filling in on the Labor Day edition of SimWorld today. Big shout out to those two for holding down the fort, keeping this train rolling day after day. Huge weekend in college football that my men yesterday did not touch on. So I want to take that time now. College football in full swing. SWFL starting this coming weekend, and I thought there was three big takeaways from the opening weekend. I don't think I'm going to be breaking any news on these three takeaways, but it's LSU getting it done in Death Valley or Death Valley 2. It's Alabama laying an egg on the road, but let's start with Texas going down to Ohio State. And there is a ton of conversation right now about, Arch Manning. He's, the memes to the seriousness. Arch Manning is quote unquote adopted to how is this guy really at any time the Heisman frontrunner. Now, there was a lot of hype around Arch Manning, and I would say that for the most part, a lot of that was well warranted. I think that we're looking here at college football in a nutshell. I mean, take a look at Jaden Daniels, who had to play multiple seasons at Arizona State before finally playing a full season at LSU, having a great campaign before becoming who he's been for the Washington Commanders in his one season in the SWFL. You look at the number of guys that have entered into college football who have been highly touted versus not highly touted, and the success that they have early on. And I think for us to sit here one game into the Arch Manning experience and say, kid is not what we expected him to be. To me, that is so short-sighted. I mean, the fact that you went on the road and you took on the defending national champions, who I would argue, why are we ranking Texas number one when we really literally have a defending national champion coming back into college football? For me, this was an expected result. Ohio State winning at home in defense of a national championship. I mean, did we honestly expect a team like Texas to go on the road and win this game? Now, look, if you can make the argument and say, well, if Texas is who we thought they were, then they win this football game. But Ohio State is still who we thought they were from last season. It's a team that was dominant in the college football playoff, who's bringing back a lot of difference makers from a year ago, and it's a group that has the experience, who is at home, a team that has now won 26 straight season openers. All of this pointed to a win for Ohio State. And if you look at the number of elite quarterbacks who have tried to go on the road to the Buckeye State, to the Horseshoe, and try to get it done, and they haven't, Arch Manning's no different than that. Arch Manning making, his first career start, a guy that, yes, he's got all sorts of hype. He's a sophomore. I mean, college football in its current era, with the amount of talent that stays in college football, because now you have guys that say, well, I could go pro, I could be a third or fourth round pick, or I could stay in college, I can make the same amount of money, and I could be dominant at the collegiate level. That's what is happening right now in college football. It is becoming as close to professional as we can get. It is essentially a semi-professional league with absolutely no organization and no founding foundation that keeps this thing to what it is. And Arch Manning lost to the defending national champs. And we're bothered by that? This should be expected. A tough going of it, absolutely. And Arch Manning and Texas is without a doubt going to bounce back. They're going to have a much more favorable matchup here in the coming weeks as we take a look. They got San Jose State, they got UTEP, and they got Sam Houston. Those are the next three games. By the time we see Texas go on the road to face Florida on October 4th, I'm confident we're going to be looking at a much different version of Arch Manning than the one that we got at the Horseshoe on Saturday. This result was expected. Let's not vilify, and I think this happens across the board. We are constantly doing this with football players, and really any player, basketball, football. They have a poor showing. Cooper Flag has a poor showing in summer league. Maybe it shouldn't have been him. Maybe he shouldn't have been the number one pick. Victor Wembanyama doesn't live up to your expectations for a night or two, and it's we are encapsulated and so focused on these first impressions being everything that they are. It doesn't matter. Arch Manning is going to have at least 2 seasons in college football to figure things out, and to think that a guy with his background and his pedigree and his skill set coming into college is not going to get that done, I think he will. LSU, Clemson. All the talk coming into this was I should say all the talk. Plenty of talk was, oh, this Clemson team is legit. This Clemson team is back. And Cade Klubnik, he could be. If you look around the league, there was plenty of folks that thought Cade Klubnik was maybe the number one pick in the upcoming SWFL draft. He didn't look like it. And I'm not here to sit here and say, well, we make one game, we should have made one game arguments against Arch Manning. Cade Klubnik just didn't play well. And that was a game that, to me, neither team really played well. It wasn't a sexy game to watch. It wasn't an entertaining game. If you were, the score made it entertaining, but the skill set for both teams just wasn't really there. And I think that, in my opinion, you look at this quarterback class, and I think there's a lot to be desired, right? You don't have the bona fide number one sitting atop it, right? It's not the Caleb Williams, the Trevor Lawrence, the Andrew Lucks, right? And I would say, I would make this argument. I think that's a good thing. I think that we're not sitting here saying this is a generational talent at the quarterback position. It's the best quarterback to enter, the most well-rounded quarterback to enter the league since Andrew Luck, because all that does is set these dudes up for failure. And we've seen that with Caleb Williams with the question marks through his 2 years. We've seen that with the question mark, the first year for Caleb Williams, the question marks that now enter Trevor Lawrence. But this class doesn't have that guy. It doesn't have the number one, and I think we're trying to manufacture the number one, and Cade Klubnik is currently the guy that we want to manufacture into being, well, here's our number one dude. Here is the guy that's going to be the prototypical guy. And if you look at both Nussmeier and Klubnik, like, physically, Klubnik just looks like a dog. Like he's just more prototypical appearance, right? The kid wears the jersey well. He looks like a quarterback. Here, Nussmeier looks more in the Mac Jones era, maybe a little bit more athletic than that version, but he outplayed Cade Klubnik by far. And I think that's the example that if you're trying to find a guy, Garrett Nussmeier wasn't afraid of Death Valley, South Carolina. He's saying, come on to the real Death Valley in Baton Rouge and have fun with this Tiger group. The defense for LSU was suffocating. The offense for Clemson never looked like they got in any sort of rhythm. And I think that's a big concern for a Clemson team that's now trying to build themselves as like, hey, the field is wide open. We're coming. We're coming back, and we're going to be a legitimate contender for a national championship. They didn't look like it. The problem is, because of now us being in a 12-man playoff, we're probably going to see Texas in a national championship or in the playoff. We're probably going to see Clemson in the playoff because the ACC is dog water. Except there could be a team down south that's going to make a play for it, who we'll talk about in 1 second. So the disappointment is, as of this now being a 12-team playoff, these week one losses don't mean as much. But I just thought that LSU looked so much better. Obviously, they went the win. But I think there's major question marks about Cade Klubnik. We were pegging him as maybe a number one pick. I didn't see that in week one. I thought there was a lot of opportunities where he could have improved, and he just didn't. Let's go to the team that now looks like they want to be serious players for the ACC, and that's FSU, who just obliterated Alabama. And, I mean, I think everybody said this. The era of Alabama dominance is over, clearly. I mean, these losses don't happen under Nick Saban. And to me, there was one play that stood out of saying, this is why this is different. And it was in the third quarter. Alabama was driving. I think they were still down by 2 touchdowns. Maybe it was down by 17. They were trying to get a field goal. Ball is inside the 20-yard line, 20, 25-ish. Drops back, looks to pass. Blitz comes at him, right? First off, the running back for Alabama steps up, tries to block in the hole. Blitzing linebacker gets smacked onto his tail end. Linebacker goes through, makes the play. Quarterback tries to throw it away. It's batted away. Turns into a fumble. Who recovers that ball and then takes off running? The offensive lineman. Would have been about a 15-yard loss, turns it into about pretty much the original line of scrimmage. And what I saw in that play was the running back for Alabama stood there and did I think I'm going for the ball. I want to make you think I'm going for the ball, but I'm not really going for the ball. And kind of like jogged after it slowly, very Cam Newton in the Super Bowl, didn't want to dive on the football. And to me, that's something that never happens in an Alabama era when it was Nick Saban. With Nick Saban at the helm, you didn't half-ass anything. Pardon the French, earmuffs. You didn't half-tail anything. You went after every single snap, every single block, every single opportunity to get the football. And when you did do that, you were sitting on the sideline. And this version of Alabama is not what we were. And I don't think that shouldn't be breaking news to anybody. But the fall that this team has had in the 2 seasons now, the season plus of the DeBoer era, it's a far cry. And you had last season where you were building off of everything, and you had the framework that Nick Saban had put in place to what's going on right now. It is not the same Alabama team. I wouldn't be surprised if this team finishes, I think SEC plays what 8 or 9 games. I think we're looking at a 6-3, 5-4 in SEC play Alabama because they don't appear to show up when they need to with Kalen DeBoer as a head coach. This team does not look the same. They do not act the same. They do not play the same. And against FSU, in an environment where you've got the opposing quarterback saying Nick Saban's not going to save you anymore, and you don't get up to play for that, I mean, that's the biggest shot as you as a head coach and an organization. When somebody says your old head coach who's retired and doing commercials with a duck is not here to save you, and you don't think, let's get up and let's show them that we are still here. And they didn't look prepared. They didn't look ready for the moment. And they got their tails handed to them from the get-go, from the jump. That's concerning. That's concerning because if you're going to lose that game, at least lose like Clemson did. At least lose like Texas did. Lose by a possession. Be competitive. Lose like Notre Dame did. Rally back and make this thing competitive. And Alabama didn't. They rolled over. They got punched in the face immediately. And they let Doak Campbell overwhelm them. Of course, it would never happen with Nick Saban because Nick Saban wouldn't allow this team to be mentally unprepared to show up. And that's exactly what Alabama was in week 1. And it's why I have zero faith in them in a stacked SEC with extremely high levels of talent and capabilities. Alabama's done. It was done the moment Nick Saban retired. I don't think that's breaking news. It shouldn't be breaking news. It shouldn't be a shock to anybody. The shocking part is just how quickly and how far this group has fallen in the post-Saban era. We're back tomorrow on SimWorld Today. Appreciate you tuning in here on SimWorld TV. The only place you can see the game, be the game.